All right, so this is recording, and now I'm going to put it live. And I'll tell you when we're live. But we'll be live already. We're probably live already. I'm talking about being live. So
this is very typical. Yeah, we talk about going live, and it's been live for minutes.
And everybody's like, "Oh, you've been live for like 5 minutes."
I remember all about your kids and your families.
It's very much like,
Now that you know me, right?
I think, hold on. Nope, not yet. We're what do I need to touch here? Oh, go live. The big button that says go live.
That would probably do it. That might possibly do it.
But yeah, it's very often, the Joe Rogan podcast where we're just in the middle of a conversation about something, and then it's like, oh yeah, and we're live.
Look at that, we're on.
Look at this, and look at that, we're live. All right,
cool.
And look at that, we're live.
I guess we're live then.
We are.
All right. There we go.
There we go. All right, cool. Well, hey, I guess I'll just kick us off. Jesse's walking around the back of that blanket wrapped around her. It's hilarious.
And there goes my dogs. So the environment when you get inside the house is very different.
I know, don't worry. In like an hour, my kids are going to come home, so guaranteed you'll be hearing noise and people walking in. So.
Well, my not so little one is getting something right now. So
there you go. All right.
There you go.
Well, cool. Well, hey, welcome everyone. We appreciate anyone who's joining. I'm just going to kind of kick it off and introduce it. We're here today talking about something that is, I guess, near and dear to probably all of our hearts, and just something that probably the three of us are pretty passionate about, which is mental health, especially as I guess more specifically how it relates to men and motivation and our health. And the three of us have different paths, different stories, different careers. And it's just kind of interesting as we've been talking, just kind of how they're all tied together to a degree. And so today's Matt Mullins is on, who we're just super lucky to have, who's a senior Navy chief, as well as the founder of Get Some Motivation, which we can talk more about. But you have a really unique perspective for us, and this is something that you talk about quite a bit and really passionate about. So I'm excited more to hear you. I hope I don't talk very much. I just love to hear you.
I can talk every once in a while.
And Steve is on. So Steve Lepicki works in healthcare. He's also an athlete, OCR athlete, and Ironman and other things. And my name's Chris. I work in commercial real estate. So I work in the corporate world. I'm an athlete as well, and a dad, and anything else I gotta be. So yeah, that's us. And today we're really here to talk about mental health, like I said. And I think it'd be cool, guys. I mean, I know we all have a story, and we're all here for a reason, and we talk about this for a reason, and we are where we are in our lives and our careers because of various events and things that we've had to do and overcome, and continue to overcome. And so I'd love to hear from you guys, and I can share a little bit as well, but I want to be done talking. So I don't know, Steve, I don't know, I'll turn it over to you, man. I'd love to hear a little bit about just your story, why you're here, why is this important to you, and what you've learned over your years, your many years.
Yeah, so this is really a topic that I'm passionate about and that I want to talk about tonight. One, because just the climate that we're in with COVID, the explosion of mental health challenges that we're seeing from a healthcare perspective, but also that we know that's happened pre-COVID, but the job loss, the stuck that everybody's feeling inside has caused a lot of people to see additional and new symptoms that they may not know how to get help or talk with. And working in the healthcare field, it's something that I've seen and heard in the hospital that's definitely a concern. But personally, I've been through periods of time of depression, anxiety. For a number of years, I dealt with depression, was afraid to talk about it, to get help, to ask for help, to go talk to somebody about it. And it really got to the point where it's impacting my quality of life, where I just had to. And I was at that point trying everything from CrossFit to, like not unhealthily drinking, but going out every night to try not to deal with my just not wanting to be alone and stuck in that place, or looking for that answer in other people or relationships and not finding it. And finally I realized that to deal with that issue I had to look inside. So I asked for help. Was on medication for a period of time. Found that just put me in this like world of just stuck of like you're just constantly underwater, which drove me nuts. And really was looking into other ways. Met Jesse, and that's when I realized that diet, nutrition, fitness, supplementing with Juice Plus and going on a more vegan diet, eating more whole foods, looking at the nutrition brain connection, and changing my group of people. I mean, Matt went from somebody who I met running up a mountain one day to one of my best friends, and it's really just shifted perspective in such a way that I wished, and I always said that I wish somebody reached out to me sooner. But I also realized that I hid it from everybody. If anybody said, "Oh, was Steve dealing with people?" People would say, "Nah, Steve's awesome. It's good. It's great." So, for me, it's more about just opening the conversation, getting rid of the stigma. Right now, and this was pre-COVID, 1 in 4 men were not comfortable saying that they had feelings of depression, telling their best friends. 1 in 8 men in their lifetime will have some form of, my dogs are super excited about it too. 1 in 8 men will have, depression, anxiety, and all those, long-term. And 30% of men actually deal with long-term, or at least a period of depressive symptoms that should be treated at some point in our lifetime. And then what I found shocking was the highest age, and this was back in a 2018 study, the peak age group for men committing suicide was around 85. Like there was a massive just jump in spike in suicide rates at 85. So it's not like this is something that you just grow out of. And I just feel like it's time for men to, stop, quote unquote, manning up over their issues and start discussing this the same way I would discuss, the way that I hurt my ankle. So those are kinds of the things that, why I'm involved. Maybe Matt, you want to maybe share why you're passionate about it?
Well, for many reasons, most of which you've already kind of spoke with, but for me personally, so I've been in the Navy for a long time. I'm known for, I've dealt with sailors that have committed suicide, whether they were under my watch or not at the time. They're, technically they're all under all of our watches. And on a personal level, though, so I'm actually I love stress. I'm actually a big fan of stress in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, that can kind of lead to goods and bads that goes to both sides of the spectrum. So, and I'm one that truthfully lives on both sides of the spectrum. I obviously always try to use stress as my driving point and as my as what helps drive me and push me to be better. I truthfully feel like if we are stress free, then we're still in our comfort zone, and you don't get anywhere in your comfort zone, right? So I'm all about putting more stress on myself to better myself, to do more for myself. On the same note, 10, 12 years ago, I didn't even realize what effects that was having on me mentally, physically, everything. So trying to get through my story pretty quick, but I grew up in pretty good shape, playing a bunch of sports. Obviously, I wasn't no professional athlete at 5'8", but I did okay for an ugly Alabama kid, So I did all right. So joined the Navy. Started going on deployments, just started lifting like a madman, started putting up a bunch of weight. That was my coping mechanism while I was away from my wife and kids. And, put on a good bit of muscle, come back, go on recruiting duty. When I go on recruiting duty, I fully mentally, once again, I'm putting a new type of stress on myself, but it's all about, hey, I want to change as many lives as I possibly can, right? If they're sleeping or if they're awake and alive and breathing, I'm going to tell them about the United States Navy and put them in. So that was my driving force. And so I started concentrating on that all the time. Well, you don't notice. You see yourself in the mirror every day. Well, most people do. I try to avoid the mirrors because, then I have to see this. But most people see themselves every day. So if you're putting on a pound a month, you don't notice it. You're putting on like 0.01 pounds a day. You're not going to notice that. Well, a pound a month after 36 months of recruiting, I put on 36 pounds of fat, right?
I could do that math.
Yeah. So I'd gotten up to around 200, 220. And like I said, you don't notice it. Well, the way I was noticing is I was watching myself play with one of my kids in a video, play with Caitlin, back before she grew up and decided to become an adult, which I can't stand. But, I was watching myself playing with her and I was like, Colleen, who's the fat guy playing with my kid? Like, sweetie, that's you. She didn't say the fat guy's you, but she said that's you. And I'm like, no, but seriously. Well, then I walk up closer to the video and I seriously could not recognize myself. And then I see myself in the video. I'm like, oh my God, I ate one of the kids. That's how bad it had gotten. So at that point, it kind of something just switched. And me and a friend of mine, I know that you know him, Steve, John Bass. So we started going to the gym and lifting like a lot. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to get in better shape. Started lifting to get in better shape and stuff like that. And then it just became an obsession, right? After I lost the first 10, 11, 12 pounds, then I plateaued. Getting stronger, not losing any weight. I'm guessing muscles behind there coming at me like a Navy SEAL all hidden, but I can't see it because I'm still chunky, right? So then I decided I'm going to start eating better. And then, it's been about, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years now of obsession of always looking for that extra thing. So now I'm on the other side of the stress levels. But going back to when I was chunky, I started having a bunch of issues with I started having allergy attacks, right? Like bad allergy attacks. My hands would swell up, my feet would swell up, I'd turn red all over. I'd be scratching my feet with a fork. It was horrible, right? Some of the worst feeling I ever had. I had one out of nowhere and I thought I just ate something bad. Well, then 2 months later, I had another attack. And then 3 months later, another attack. So I'm going to the doctors and they do all these different allergy tests. I'm not allergic to nothing, right? Then they start doing a colonoscopy, which was not a good time. It's not like going to Universal. It's not a roller coaster, right? So, but they started doing all these different things on me and checking me for everything. And then, they couldn't find nothing wrong with me. And yet I'm having to carry an EpiPen, having all these different things. Well, after about a year of going through that, I started noticing myself like getting upset at the stupidest little stuff. Like I've been a Cubs fan my entire life. Well, back in the day, the Cubs, if they won, it was exciting because that never happened. So if they lost, it was just nothing. But they would lose, it would ruin my day. Like stuff I would seriously be telling myself, this shouldn't even be bothering me. And
that's a lot of bad days then.
Yeah, exactly. It would ruin my day. So after talking to the doctor about it, they kind of put it all together. Yeah, you got a lot on your plate. You're dealing with a ton of anxiety issues and stuff like that. So they put me on some medication, which I'm not a fan of medication at all. But I will say this, that stuff did the trick. I didn't like how I felt when I was on it for the most part, but it did take away the anxiety, all that stuff. I got off of it as quickly as I could after about 4 or 5 months. But and I haven't had an anxiety, but I haven't had an allergy attack since, and that's been 10 years. That's also about the same time I decided to start getting in better shape, better health, all that type of stuff. So, but that's always shown me that the mental aspect of anxiety, stresses, because I was staying stressed all the time during that time. And I still put the same type of stresses on me. I just find different coping mechanisms now to try to deal with it. But that's always shown me about what type of effects that could have on your entire body just because of the stresses or anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and that's cool. Though I appreciate you sharing. I mean, I think you and I have some similar stories, where, I mean, for me, I work in corporate America. I love my job. I always have. I've been in commercial real estate for almost 20 years, 18 years. And for me, it was a number of years ago where I was like you, I was just driving. I was just focused. And for me, like my perspective was focused on the wrong things. It was focused on success, right? And it was not wrong things. That's not a bad thing. I was focused on being a good dad, and I was focused on being successful, but just running hard. And that was for me. I was comparing myself to others. I was comparing myself to other dads and other guys in my firm, and some of my best years financially were some of my lowest years. And so I had a number of years ago where, I was having some of that success and I hit a wall. And, I, like you, Matt, saw like a big change in me physically. Like I was still working out and I was still doing things in surfing and things that I do that are healthy. But I couldn't get out of bed. There were some days where I just couldn't even get out of bed, where I hit this wall. And so I had to I actually reached out, like Steve said, to get some help, and through some friends, started talking to some friends about things. I got a therapist, which, a lot of guys don't like to admit or talk about, but I think it's important, And so for me, some of my good friends, just in conversation, and I learned a lot about myself and my story. And I was raised by a great family, but there's always things in your past that you got to deal with and confront. And my kids will have the same thing. No matter how much I love them, they'll have things that they have to confront. And so that's when I kind of switched it up. And I said, all right, I'd also question about myself and my motivation and what I wanted out of life and what is a man and what am I supposed to be. And rather than focusing on success, which makes me look good, I focused on how can I serve others, and whether that's my kids, employees, friends, rather than focusing on myself as success, it was, okay, how can I empower my employees? How can I serve them? How can I serve my kids? I don't want, and so I had to kind of flip a switch a little bit and think less about me and more about others. And so through help and through my own diet as well, about the same time is when I really started focusing on my diet, because I used to be a total carnivore. I hunt, I eat meat. I was a red meat guy. And I'm 43 now, and I have more energy now than my fitness level and my energy level is better now than it was at 33. And I'm surfing more and I'm working out more and I'm feeling better. And so, I had to really get help mentally just to kind of get in a better place. I had to kind of rethink who I am and what I want to be, and then fill up my tank through health and through fitness and through things that I could accomplish on a day-to-day, and in order to fill my tank so I can then flip and turn and serve others, which is really what I want with my life. And so I started learning about, through the stressful environment that I work in, because I work in a very stressful field. It's a very high energy, fast paced field. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Matt, because of your experience. I've learned to just have this, what I kind of refer to as the power of neutral thinking, which is another thing that has really helped me in high stress situations, where you don't get too high, you don't get too low, but you focus on what's in front of you. When I'm having to make a big decision or go through something big, you can think about all the things that have gone wrong. You can worry about failure. You can worry about the things that go wrong, or you can just accept that some of those are probably going to happen, right? Bad things are going to happen. Great things are going to happen. So I'm not going to celebrate too much when I get high and not get too low, but just for me, I have to remove all that and just look at what the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. So I call it more neutral thinking. Doesn't mean you don't celebrate or grieve when things happen wrong. But I'd love to hear from you, like what, that concept of the mental place that you have to go to. And when you coach these young people in the military to essentially become men or women or whatever they try to grow into, like, what is that? Where do they need to put themselves mentally to get there? If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100% makes sense. So first off, see, that's why I was very excited to hear what the topic was going to be about, because hearing stuff like that, because I would tell most people that that type of zone, the neutral zone, if you can get there, that's a beautiful thing. It'll help with the stress levels. You can still put enough stress on you to grow. I ain't gonna lie though, like, I mean, just being real, I have trouble getting anywhere near that neutral zone. As much as I'd like to be, I have trouble with work, with, usually with work and with family and everything, because I still feel like I always got to give more to my sailors because they're dependent on me. But the more I give to them, the less I'm giving to my family.
Right.
So it's a very double-edged sword. The more I give to my family, the harder it is for me to look in the mirror knowing that I have sailors out there that are still trying to give more and stuff like that. But that's just a double-edged sword that I'm always fighting, and I have to use people like Steve and my pops, my wife, whenever she's not yelling at me. No, I'm just kidding. Don't yell at me later, Colleen. No, but those are the people that I have to turn to just to talk this stuff out to help me out. And then sometimes I try to bottle some of that stuff up, and then I have to bring it out. Otherwise, I can really start feeling it pulling on me. But the stuff I try to get my sailors to or my clients, from that I train and stuff like that, I try to get them to is I just try to get them to realize, like, so I've told this story. I used to teach in the Navy for a little while. And when I was teaching my students, one story I used to always tell them was a story about teaching them about they are the light, right? About we all go to this dark place. And the way most people try to get out of the dark place is by finding the light. So I talk about this whole story about finding the light, about how you have all these people around you that will turn the light on for you and stuff like that. But that's not the light we're looking for. Because that light right there is always going to get flipped back off. Most people that will just flip that switch on, all they're really doing is trying to get you comfortable, right? Get you in a comfortable spot, because that's where they're at. So that's not going to help you any. Anybody's going to feel, and it's not because they don't want you to get to your goals and stuff. It's because they want you to be comfortable like them. They think they're looking out for you. But what I try to get them to realize is that they are the light. Stop flipping on the flashlight. Stop flipping on the lights in the room. Just, you got to realize that it is you. You can come out the other side, but you're not going to come out the side you want to come out of. You're not going to come out the side stronger and better until you can sit in the dark, until you can make it through those times. And that's how we grow. Now, yes, having someone to turn to, especially if it's a mental thing, if it's a stress or stuff like that type of deal, then that's different. Yeah, you got to have people that you can go to let off your stress relief and stuff like that. But if you are just going through a rough time, whether it's at work, in the gym, whatever, then, you got to go through it to be able to come out the other side. And I ain't gonna lie, most of my students were like, oh yeah, this sounds great, and they were probably loving it. And then they go to the gym or they start working really hard, and, it gets dark and they're like, oh yeah, I know I can make it through this. And then it's been dark for like 24 hours. And now they're like, oh my, it's been dark too long, right? Where's the light? And some people got to realize is sometimes you got to sit in it for a minute to come out the other side stronger. But once again, that's a double-edged sword of, like, I love pushing myself to that place, putting myself in the pain cave, because I feel like that's what's going to make me stronger. But it's because of the support system that I have, like my friends, my family, and stuff like that, to talk through anything going through my head I'm putting myself through, to help me stay even keel, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think, I love that. And I'm a big believer in it too. And, I have certain support systems. And it's funny, like, there's not, at least in my life, historically, there's not always like one person you turn to for everything, but, you have various people in your life that you turn to for different things. And, And as a guy, it's sometimes hard being vulnerable like that. And I think if we can offer that to the people around us, the way people will come to us is by being kind of vulnerable with them too. So, Steve,
It's a swinging door, isn't it? Like if you open up to them, because most people don't, like Steve talked about in the very beginning, people don't like to talk about this. But if you talk to them about your mental state or anxieties or depressions or anything like that, it's a swinging door. Maybe they'll feel like, okay, well, they've talked to me about it. Now I feel like, oh, well, they've already opened that door. Let me talk to them about it, type of deal.
Yeah. And I mean, just on that, I think the biggest thing that surprised me and the people that I surround myself with, like, I don't know, it seems stupid to now not feel that I could have been that vulnerable with the people that I was around, because all the fears that I had of saying, like, hey, I struggle with this, or hey, I'm challenged by this, or hey, this is what I'm.
But it's even more than that, though. I still don't think it's stupid, just for the fact of, I mean, I don't like being like that to myself.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't feel right talking about it, not because of how the person, I don't feel right just the words coming out of my mouth that I'm stressed, or, you know, it makes me feel weak, not because of how the person in front of me is going to look at it. You know what I'm saying? But I've also realized that the people that can say that, you know, and use it as a building thing is, you know, that's actually what shows their strength. But it's still, that's a strength I'm still to this day working on. You know, I'm still going through the thing all the time.
Yep. And when I started talking to people about it, to literally a man, all of them were like, dude, why don't you tell me sooner? Like, why don't you say something sooner? Like, you know, like, we love you. We want to help, you know, like, what do you need? There wasn't one person I told that was like, you know, whatever negative connotation you want to throw on top of it. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the things that, you know, talking about it and finding that comfort zone is totally important.
So Matt, you talked a little bit about, and I thought it was interesting that you said this, because I think it's cool that you said this. You talked about sitting in the darkness, you know, and being comfortable in the darkness. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because I think it's important. And then, so, like, in addition to that, like, you got to sit in that dark place for a little while, and you got to be comfortable with it, and it helps you fully see it, right? And so then there's really not a definite period of time where you got to, like, sit in that. But, like, if you were to, like, talk to some of these sailors or whoever, like, you sit in that place, right? And then what? Like, what would you say to someone who says, I mean, I've been sitting in this darkness, I'm still here, man. Like, you know, what's my next step? What would you say to someone like that?
I've been, so, I mean, that, I love the question. That's a great question. And that's the thing, is there's no set timetable of, if you can deal with the hurt, if you can deal with the pain, if you can deal with the darkness, and then I'm not talking about just, it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be whatever. It's not like, oh, well, if you can deal with this for 48 hours, you're good. Now you'll reach all your goals. No, that's not it. And in fact, what I usually tell my, whether it's sailors or people I'm training or whatever, usually the bigger the goal, the longer the darkness. You know, and most people will never reach their goals because they quit before they come out the other side of that dark place. And that might be tomorrow, and they still quit today. So that's what I tell them is the light is tomorrow. And if it's not, guess what? Then it's the next day. And if it's not, then, so it's always tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. Now, if you come out today and you reached your goal, then that's freaking awesome. I want you to be excited and be pumped for 10 minutes and then raise them goals, right? Because, you know, the thing is, I mean, like, you go to sleep at night, you cut off the lights. Let's hope that you don't have a bunch of stuff on the floor because you're going to trip over it, right? But if you wake up in the middle of the night in the exact same darkness, you can walk around, step over stuff, whatever. Why? Because your eyes have adjusted, right? Because the light's within. So, you know, if we sit in the darkness long enough, your eyes will adjust, right? Yeah. and once again, that's a battle I'm still facing. I think I keep myself in the darkness sometimes a little bit too much because I'm all about raising my standards, raising my goal. And truthfully, a lot of times I've reached my goal, but I didn't even realize it because I'd already raised it 4 or 5 times. That goal's behind me. So, that's just staying purpose driven because, I mean, that's so anybody, any recruiters, I have a client right now. She's an OCR. She's an animal, right? I'm not going to throw her name out there, but I actually have quite a few of them, and it does seem like most of my females are better than my males. What's up with that, Steve? I'm with you, buddy. I'm right there with you, right? But I have a ton of clients that are like have pretty big goals. And the thing is, I see every one of them reaching their goals. What I love about a lot of my clients, and some of them have more trouble than others, but they will have a bad race or a bad few races, and that stuff takes a toll. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword of, okay, well, one, you want these type of things to stay fun, because if you're not enjoying doing it, you know what I mean, then is it worth it? But on the same note, if you're going to lower your goals, you're going to lower your standards, and you're going to be happy with yourself later doing so. Because I have one client that I know for a fact that she's going to wind up just tearing every race she goes to up. There's no doubt in my mind. But she also goes through those. She's had some rough races here and there, and a rough race for her for a lot of people. And once again, it's sometimes you got to take a step back and realize, yeah, you might have had a bad race for you, but that might have been phenomenal for somebody else, right? So, okay, you got really big goals, but think about where you were to where you are now type of deal too. So, but yeah, I usually just tell most of my sellers and stuff like that. One is don't be so quick to get out of the dark place, because if you've been in there a long time, then that just means you've grown more than most other people. The longer you're in the dark, the longer you're growing. And two, make sure to reach out and talk to people about it, right? You can sit in that dark place and still have that support system that you can reach out and talk to and tell them about the things you're going through. Because quite frankly, I have recruiters that will come to me that are struggling in recruiting duty, right? And they'll be like, hey, so, I'm stressed out. I'm having all these issues, all those issues, and I'm going to talk to them about it, and I'm going to see how they're doing. But then before we're done with the conversation, I'm going to put a little foot in butt and saying, so what are we doing to change your situation? What are we doing to get you moved in the right direction? Because I'm not doing you any service by lowering my standards for you, right? I'm going to keep the same standards that you want for yourself. You told me these were your standards. So I'm going to talk to them about all those situations and how can I help you and try to get you there. But I'm not going to help getting you there by lowering your standards here either. So it's kind of once again, it's another one of those double-edged swords.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like, when you're talking to me, what kind of the way I was processing it is, when you're, I like how you say in the darkness, but I get what you mean by that. It's not like it's not something where you don't flip a switch and the lights come on, right? It's more that dimmer where, it's, where you can like look back after 10 years and you're where you're 5 years or wherever, and you're there. And I think mentally, at least for me, because I try and set goals for myself, work-wise or whatever for, 5-10 years out. But when you're in it, man, it doesn't feel like that light's ever, it's just, you don't know it on a day-to-day. And so just like mentally, like there's things that I know I have to do to just stay in it and you kind of keep your eye on where that is, but you can't think about it all the time. You got to think about what's in front of you. Right?
So I get more about what you're saying. Yeah. Just like you just said, more about what's in front of you is I tell them to break it down mm-hmm. from long-term to still long-term, but not as long, to just break it down all the way down to, all right, this moment, right? This next 15 minutes, this next hour, this next day, and really break down the goals to that minute thing, and do it every day. Because guess what? I might not reach this goal in this 15 minutes. That doesn't mean I don't make a new goal for the next 15, right? Or for this next hour, for this next day, same thing. I might not reach my goals for today, but well, you know what? That's okay because I'll have it tomorrow, right? I mean, it's not okay. I'm not going to lower my standards. I'll get there, but I'm I'm okay with it because I drove and gave everything I had to reach that daily goal. So yeah, I definitely do tell them to plan it out, break it down. So I get what you're saying. That makes a little more sense.
And Steve, I'd love to hear, like, I think you mentioned something about like, you know, how there was a period of time where there was some and both of you guys said something about it, and I'm not a big medication fan either, but sometimes it's necessary, right? And but then seemed like for both of you guys there was this, hey, I hit this wall and I needed the medication to like just reel me back in, but then I weaned myself off it by how was it through diet, exercise? Steve, you mentioned a little bit about it, but can you talk a little bit about that transition? Because I think we're all on the same page with that, where we used diet and fitness to really to keep us going during this period of, I'll keep using Matt's in the darkness phraseology. So I love that actually. But
Lighter fluid.
what about you?
Lighter fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was a period of time for 6 to 8 months. And I hated it. I hated it because it is, as I described it, it put like mufflers, and it put mufflers on both ends of my life. And it was like, I would never get really happy about anything, and I would never get really sad about anything. And I just sat in like the middle. And for me, I'm very much like on the Matt side of things, where I rev higher, but I rev higher with everything. So I rev higher with stress, I rev higher with feeling good, and I rev higher when I feel bad. And part of it is, you know, Jessie describes it, when I'm stressed, I don't put a glass down. So she's like, you just hold it and you pent it and you keep it. But same thing, when I'm excited about something, I'm a little too excited sometimes, where I'm like, yeah, and so I'm going to do a triathlon, but I'm not going to train for, you know, an Olympic, because, you know, anybody can do that. I'm going to do an Ironman. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, you know, I'm going to do the Ultraman. And so people like wheel back in. And I missed it. I missed having, you know, no ceiling and no floor. And what I realized was, it was what I consumed, meaning what I ate, what I consumed, meaning what I listened to and who I was around.
Yeah.
What I did with what I consumed. So diet was huge for me. I went from, like you said, full carnivore to now entirely plant-based. And I can tell you, when I go from eating good quality, whole food, good diet, to just crap, because we all go there, my mood will just you can feel it shift, and it shifts. And sometimes I don't notice it shifts, but like Matt said, I be quicker to anger. I get, you know, upset about stupid stuff. I just don't sit there, and I'm not just, you know, comfortable with being in a given situation. Same thing if I'm not exercising. If I'm laid up for a period of time, I found that, you know, getting a sweat or doing something physical was just the relief that I needed. And one of the reasons I was thinking about this, why I gravitate towards endurance sports, is one, because I know I can look at anybody in a room, and before 7 a.m., I've probably done more than most of them, which just gets me in the proper headspace. But I also know that if I could sit on a trainer and stare at a garage door for an hour and a half and sit there, that I can pretty much get through anything else. And then the biggest thing I noticed for me, and particularly during COVID, because, you know, you hear people talking about, you know, whatever they're talking about out there that are not in it every day. And I'm working in a healthcare system, and so I see it from a different perspective. And I would be getting like upset over things that I shouldn't be getting upset over. And so I stopped, you know, paying attention to notifications on Facebook. I stopped engaging in certain things. I started listening to, you know, more of the stuff that Matt used to say, you know, you should listen to this stuff, whether it's like Billy Osbrook starting to work out.
Billy Osbrook, that's my man. E.T.
My workouts used to be like, all right, if you're going to work out in the darkness, your music has to be dark. And my music was dark and scary dark. And now it's more like overcoming, and like there's a little religion in there, which has really helped, and all those kinds of things. And it's really about even who you're around. And if you're hearing people talking about goals and expectations and achieving things, and you have conversations about, vibes and feelings and experiences and what you want to accomplish, those are the people you want to be around. But if you're sitting and you're talking around about other people, or you're talking about, how much work sucks every day, or you're talking about how much, 2020 sucks every day. Like for me, at a period of time, 2020 was just, it's the ultimate darkness. And it's the ultimate darkness for all of us. But I think the moment I took it and I reframed it and said,
Yeah.
holy crap, we're in a pandemic. Just surviving right now, we've done more than 90% of the people that, we've lived around it. And if you accomplish anything right,
I'm so glad you brought up 2020.
Yeah,
2020, right?
I'd like to jump in too.
Hey, but because I got to speak on that, right? Everything's about perspective, right? So there's a story. I've told it to some of my set. I love this story, right? It's about this guy who he's doing an interview for a story, right? And he interviews this guy who's like one of the most successful people in his field. He's a millionaire and all this stuff. And he asked this guy, what made him so successful? And he said that, I'd like to blame my father for why I'm so successful. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be the man that I am today, right? And the same guy, the same interviewer interviewed another guy that was in jail on death row. And this guy's been in and out of jail his entire life. So then he asked him, so what made you think that, or, what got you to the man that you are and made you the person to do all these things? And the guy says, I blame my father. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't do any of this. I'd probably be a millionaire. I'd probably be rich. I'd probably be whatever. What the two guys don't know is, or what the interviewer didn't know, was that he was talking to twins, right? It's just the dad was a deadbeat dad, was a drunk, always beating on him. And one kid let that be the reason that he grew up to be nothing. And the other kid let that be the driving force to make something out of his life and say, I'm never going to be that person, right? So it's all perspective. I mean, 2020 in so many ways, yes, it does suck. But I'll tell you, I've spent more time in the last 20 years in Navy recruiting with my wife because, a lot of that time we had to work at home and stuff like that than I have in a long time. I got closer, which it sucks. I kind of wish my two oldest kids still lived with us and weren't out being adults because of this time, because I've gotten closer to my younger daughter because of it. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty to complain about for 2020, plenty. But, once again, I've been doing plenty complaining about it too, about gyms closing down and all this stuff. But you know what? Gyms are opening back up. I don't plan on going back. I don't need it. I got the stuff at the house, right? Like I tell my sailors all the time, the best gym equipment that the good Lord ever gave us was the floor, because you can do push-ups, you can run, you can do sit-ups, and they can't take that from you, right? Yeah. So, it's just, once again, it's perspective, right? It's that mental aspect of how do you want to look at this? How do you want to perceive what just happened to you?
I would agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I think 2020 is a good year. COVID sucks. Mm-hmm. People sick and people losing their jobs as a result of us closing down sucks. But 2020 has been a good year. I mean, when it first happened, I've been super blessed that my job has been, I'm stable and whatever. Like you said, Matt, like I don't think I've ever been able to spend as much time with my kids as I have during 2020. I drive around and I see dads out walking with their kids, playing in the parks, being outside, not in movie theaters, not in restaurants, getting out of the office, working from home. Like, I think that has been, again, it's perspective, and it's not saying there's not hard things going on right now.
I was going to say, I definitely don't want to take away from people that have lost family members and stuff. I mean, there's definitely stuff that people should still complain's not the right word, but it's the only word I can think of it, complain about or be upset about, you know, losing a loved one and stuff like that. You know, there's not much. It's always hard to see the light in that. I mean, I'm religious, so obviously I would always say, well, yeah, but they're in a better place. But that'd be easy for me to say because, quite frankly, if I lost my moms or pops right now, I'd be devastated, and I don't know that I see it that way. So I'm not trying to take away from any of the horrible stuff, people losing jobs and stuff like that that's going on, because obviously that's horrible.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that perspective because I mean, I think that plays into so much of what we're talking about, you know, of our mental health is the perspective we take on hard things, you know. And when, you know, I even talk to my kids about it, you know, when they're going through something hard, you know, it's not that you can change it or you know, sometimes power of positive thinking is not going to change something. I can't think positively and change something bad that's happening, or I can create a different perspective and look at it from a different angle. So, I mean, that's why I do think, I mean, that's what kind of gets me excited about the social change that's happening in 2020, everything aside. I think it's kind of an exciting time, you know, and I have you know, for me, and I'd love to hear as we kind of wrap up here pretty soon, like, I think we all have different strategies behind mental health. And I'd love, maybe you could each like just tell me a little bit about your strategy and how do you in each of your environments now, how do you keep mentally healthy? I mean, for me, I do have a religious aspect of how I stay mental healthy. So that's part of it for me. But part of it is a balance of my life and in health and in fitness and being a good dad and serving employees and the people that are clients. So for me, it's just a well-roundedness that keeps me healthy, but it's always this, like, what keeps me fueled is my health and fitness. Surfing for me is like, might sound silly, but like if I'm stressed or anxious or having something, I go straight to the water, you know, because for me, being out in nature and being in the water and moving and having that challenge and getting pounded, that resets me. And so those are, you know, being able to get up every day and start my day at 5. So I have to have this. I have to wake up no matter, I don't care if I couldn't sleep and I got 3 hours of sleep. I'm waking up at 5 and I'm going to go train. I'm going to go do CrossFit and then I'm going to go to the gym. Then I'm going to come home and I'm going to make lunch for my kids and get them to school. And I'm going to go to work and come home from work. I'm going to be a dad. You know, and there's just so much of my life that's nonstop. But what keeps me healthy through that is perspective, and it's taking care of myself. And so it feels like we've talked a lot about taking care of ourselves, and that's, I have friends that I can talk to when things are going wrong. I have health, and I have diet and routine. So those are, for me, the things that are keep me fueled, and I can go 7 days and sustain that level as long as I have that balance. It's not always that perfect. Trust me. I mean, every day I'm like trying to figure it out and deal with crap and, you know, all this stuff. But I have to maintain that. And so for me, it starts with my routine. It starts with my religion and my routine and keeps me kind of sustained. So that's me. And I know we all attack it from a different angle, but I'd love to hear you guys, like, how you're able to maintain consistency and how you're able to maintain your mental health through our chaos of life.
Yeah.
So, go first, Steve. Put me in. Go ahead.
First, that's fine. We'll let you, you know, be the third one and finish it up. I think for me, what Chris said is absolutely the physical side of things, getting up, getting a workout in, making sure that I'm staying active. It just allows me to clear everything. Nutrition, I think, is probably this, if it's 1A and it's 1B. Socrates, some old Greek dead guy, said, you know, let food be thy medicine. And I believe that. I mean, the research behind whole foods, fruits and veggies, Juice Plus, all of those types of quality products and the connection between your gut health and your mental health are well researched and obvious. And I think nutrition is the most important. if I had to pick one of those two, I need to make sure I'm eating right, because I can go a couple days and not get a workout in. If I'm eating right and not hydrating and not care myself, the nutrition is just incredibly important.
I agree.
Sleep is incredibly important, and I don't get enough of it, but sleep just lets you reset.
I don't either, man, ever.
Yeah. What you consume, making sure you're moderating what you're watching, what you're taking. And I think the biggest thing for me, and what's really helped me, is getting to know myself. Even before this, taking time and being interested. And I did it by finding a whole mindfulness practice that I started to do more religiously or regularly than I do it now. But it's more, I'm feeling anxious, but why am I feeling anxious? What about this is making me anxious? Is it the situation? Is it something in me? Is it, why? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? And I think a lot of the issues we have right now, particularly with people who, may be experiencing new, challenges or symptoms, or for right now, we're all shut down. We have to know ourselves, and you have to have that conversation. And so taking that time and really getting to know yourself, I think, is most important. And then making sure the people that are around you, and that support system are the 4 or 5, 6, whatever that is, most important things for me.
That's awesome, man.
All right. So, so, I mean, I agree with everything you said, Steve, when it comes to health and all that stuff. I am actually still a meat eater to the fullest, but I definitely do bring in more fruits and veggies than I do anything else. In fact, I really don't get to the meats until dinner time. So nutrition, all that. But for me, what helps me, once again, it all goes to the mental aspect. So my daily, and so I love that both y'all say that you're on a routine, because my wife and all my friends or whatever, they say that I'm like a robot, because I'm very much to the schedule. Very much.
I'm
Steve
super
can tell
boring.
you, I'm very much to my schedule. Okay. So, I don't like to deviate much, right? I deviate every 4 months, and I completely switch it on myself to throw my body out of whack, but then I'll stay on that schedule for 4 months, right? So, and it's like clockwork. If I go to sleep at night, I'm not okay with it. I have to pass out. Like usually I don't make it to the bed when I'm falling asleep. Like I'm like, hey, Colleen, you ready? It's bedtime. I know it's 6:30, but let's go to sleep. And she's like, no, we're staying up till 9. I'm like, oh my Lord. So no, exaggerating a little bit, but I start falling asleep, just passing out on the couch pretty early. But that lets me know that I've earned my sleep for that evening, right?
Yep.
My mental aspect I try to stay in is mastering the breaking point, right? So that is what my goal is every day, is to master the breaking point. Do I feel that I'm there? No. Do I know if I'll ever get there? I don't know. I know what I know for a fact is I'm going to try every day to master the breaking point, because I think you need that to make it in anything in life, whether it's the physical aspect, the mental aspect, the marriage aspect, right? I think that most people go through divorce because they haven't mastered the breaking point, right? Because I know for a fact that I've been married for 21 years. God has definitely blessed me 1,000% with, obviously I'm biased, but one of the best ever, right? But has it been 21 of the best years ever? I mean, no. We've fought. We've been at it. We've been through those rough times. The reason I think we're still together is because my wife, just like me, works on mastering the breaking point. My wife really works on mastering the breaking point this weekend when she's going to run 40 miles, right? That's a different breaking point that I'm not ready to master. Okay. But I think that everything in life, that's how I've tried to get there. I'm trying to, master the breaking point. And then, I'm constantly reminding myself or telling myself, hey, all these things that are impossible, what if that's just an opinion, right? What if that's just an opinion? Because it used to be, back hundreds of years ago, it was impossible to go to the moon. That was not something anybody would ever talk about. And now how many people have been up there? Flying, period, hundreds of years ago was impossible, right? Never could do it. Breaking the 4-minute mile, impossible, could never do it. But then once one person does it, then it starts happening all the time. So I'm constantly reminding myself of what I think is impossible for me to do, and then just reminding myself that's just your current opinion. You need to switch that. So I'm constantly working to do so. But all that goes with start with me. It's all the mind. I mean, the physical, the eating, the nutrition and stuff like that, to me is just as much in the mind. There's so many studies out there that show how the gut, the gut can actually control the mind in a lot of ways. And I believe the studies in a sense, but I think it's all in how you look at it as well, because I actually think that it still starts up here, because to get your gut controlled, to make the decision to get the junk out of your body so you can change that mental aspect, still starts up here, up to me. But then if you can do that, if you can get to that aspect, then it's eating the right stuff and making that decision on a daily basis and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, for a guy that hasn't had a cupcake, a donut, or a soda in 11 years, I still crave myself a donut, okay? That's still a decision I have to make all the time. But it's, once again, that mental game of, hey, you got to win today. So just getting myself back after, all right, well, why eat that donut when you have that, when you have that hummus and celery or carrots right there that you like now? You didn't like it in the beginning, but you like it now, so what does it matter? It's good.
Yeah.
And anything I can do to help that, which is one of the reasons I started with Juice Plus. I started taking it because I love fruits, I love veggies, and I eat a ton of it. I eat broccoli all the time. I eat asparagus all the time. But do I eat broccoli every day? No. Do I eat asparagus every day? No. Do I eat carrots every day? No. So that's the reason I decided to start taking Juice Plus, is just because at least I'm getting a little bit of that every single day. And that, and plus I'm hoping that I can get my kids to start really taking it more, trying to get it going,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. You talk about like that, the our diet and our choice between, having those cupcakes or eating your fruits and veggies. There's this like concept, I think I've even maybe mentioned it before, of the illusion of choice. And so, hey, I want to be the best me. I want to be in the best shape. I want to work on nutrition. And you kind of have a bag of Doritos in one hand and an apple in the other. Do you really have a choice? And so just almost removing that could almost be a little bit freeing in a sense, where it's just like, all right, well, if that's what I want, this is what I got to do, right? And so you don't really have a choice. And so, like, for me, that's actually helpful for me. Like, it helps put things into perspective for me. Or as I thought that was interesting. Well, I know we kind of wanted to like keep it to an hour. I mean, Matt, anything else? Any words of wisdom you want to impart on us before we leave? I'm so glad you're here, man. It was super cool, like meeting you and hearing your story, and love what you're doing. And I'd love to, if there's like anything else you want to.
I'll just end it with this. Anybody that is tuning in, anybody that watches the video later that decided to keep listening to my very annoying voice for this long, look, you're writing the book, right? You're the author. People have heard me say this before, but I love this saying because I truly believe it. You're the author, you're the director, you're the publisher. I mean, you're the lead actor, right? You're writing the book, you're writing the movie. You are the director of your story, and your story hasn't ended yet. So whether you're going to be okay reading that book or watching that movie or whatever you want to, however you want to look at it, whether you're going to be okay watching that movie later at the end of your life is up to you. No one can write your story but you. in every single story there is out there, there's plenty of other things thrown into that story to make it difficult, to put obstacles in your way, to kick you in the gut, or slap you in the face. But the stories that the best sellers, the ones that everybody write, are the ones where it talks about people that still finished at the ending they wanted, right? That still came out at the end that they wanted, because it didn't matter about the middle. They weren't going to let nothing stop them from getting to their end story. So you're the author. You write the ending. You write the ending now, and then don't let nothing stop you from getting to the ending of your book, the ending of your movie. So go ahead and write the ending that you would watch. Go ahead and write the ending that you would want to see, and then you do everything in your power to make sure that you get there, right? And then know that while you're going through those struggles, if you know me and you need to talk to somebody, hit your boy up, get some.
I love it, man. Well, I really appreciate it. I love that. You know, I think the people I respect most are people that have hit bottom or at bottom and have to kind of pick themselves up by their bootstraps and figure it out. And we've all been there, and none of us on this call have anything figured out. It's like every day we're just trying to figure things out. And that's the cool thing is not being alone in it, you know, and none of us are. I mean, I'm here talking about it. Doesn't mean I've figured out. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm doing my best. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to be a dad, a boss, you know, all these things. And so, you know, there's no shame in being at the bottom, you know, at rock bottom or anywhere near the bottom. We've all been there, and we should be there at some point in our life, you know, or we're not doing it right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Steve, what do you think, man? Any words of wisdom for us?
I think I can't top Matt's story. So
I know, man. I know.
And I have a story. So I'm going to tell a quick Matt Mullen story just so everybody can kind of get, you know.
Oh, you going to tell the butterfly?
Let me tell a butterfly story.
Oh,
I'm
you going to take the butterfly from me?
not going to tell the story. I'm going to tell the story about the story, and Mullins has. So just so you guys kind of know, because we have to have some kind of like funny ending, I guess, to a very serious topic. But we were at North American Championships a year ago, 2 years ago now, and my parents were there. And it's the first time my parents ever came to, not the first time they ever came to a race. First they were ever at a race at that magnitude. And so for me, I'm tense. I'm not joking around before it. I'm not having a good time. And Matt pulls me aside and tells me this story about, you know, a caterpillar goes into a cocoon and it makes these changes and comes out and becomes this butterfly. And it's about the changes you go through and the growth you have. And this great story. I can't tell the story. But
A good one.
I'm going up this mountain afterwards. And my head is going to like this place of like, this is hard, this is bad, what am I doing? This is slow, I'm slow. And I just start going, be the butterfly, be the butterfly, be the butterfly, be the butterfly. As I'm going up the mountain, and this guy next to me is like, what the hell are you talking about? What butterfly? And so it was just, you know, one of those moments that's just such a story. But
All my old students used to crack on me because I'd have stories about the baby giraffe, stories about the butterfly. Hey, man, I got it.
I wanted to Google a good animal story to start this thing, but I
could have, man. I could always brought out baby giraffe, man, or baby giraffe's probably my favorite, but you know, I like the butterfly too.
Yeah. So
maybe next time we'll have you on and we can learn about the butterflies and unicorns and
baby
giraffes or whatever you want to teach us about.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No, Matt, thank you. I think this was awesome. I think
man.
with the next topic for our fourth one, because now we've done physical fitness, diet, and nutrition. Now we're gonna have to start like working on topics. So anybody who has a topic they want, you know, us to talk about or something, leave it in the comments. I'm assuming the comment box is down there. And let us know. But thank you guys for joining us, and you know, reach out to any of us if you think we'd be a help for anything.
100%, anytime.
Please.
All right, guys. Hey, appreciate it.
We're clear. Let me stop.